got it. Well, hello again, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to you from Aquarius Rising Africa. Beautiful to see you all today again. And I have back with me the lovely Amanda Bass. How are you? You've been away for a while.
Yeah, I have. Going very well, thanks, Chantel. Busy, but it's good. It's also a very busy season now. So yeah, I've written a whole thing up on this time from equinox until equinox until about the 6th of May. It's just one solid weeks of very dark things going down.
I'd love to maybe touch on that with you. If not now, maybe we can just, I'd love to, we've done previous, decodes and stuff like that as well, but I think it's really important just to be able to touch on the different dates.
Yes.
What they mean,
yeah.
what they doing during those times. And absolutely, we know that a lot of these nasties are particularly active around this time as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So your survivors are really, the wheels are coming off and they're all crying for help. And so, the therapists need to know that it's, it's time to give a little bit more attention and be available during this time and season.
When you say that the wheels are falling off for some of the survivors or a lot of the survivors, can you explain that?
Well, they're being accessed to go to rituals.
Okay.
So
their parts are being activated, these the splits.
Yeah. You see, it's if you look at the turning of the orbits and the year and everything, then you must know last year this time there was stuff. So every year of their life, they have been summoned for the different high days, which is your solstices, your equinoxes, your Easter, the Christmas, all of those high days. They are like downloaded memories for them, because every time as the cycle comes around and the date comes around, they get summoned, and the parts that are trained to be at those rituals are then, they have to be there. They have to, because they fulfill a very important role. And so especially your royals, they have to, because it's global. And the world is on its head globally. There's such confusion, and there's talk of Third World War and all of these things. So there's just so much going on. And so the cult is very, very active. New World Order, very active. And they are also desperate, because as more counselors are working with survivors and getting them out, they are losing those that they have thought are their pillars, and they are losing them. And so they're becoming quite desperate. So
when you say losing them, what is happening? Is it because more and more survivors are speaking up and speaking out, and therefore that that foundation of destructiveness, if you want to call it that, are being shattered and becoming shaky at this point? Is that what is currently happening?
Yeah. Because you see, the more secrets, the stronger the hold and the control. And so what is happening is, now that survivors are starting to hear other survivors' testimonies, and there are more programs going on and exposing and revealing this, and more people are getting to know about it, it means that we are weakening the secrecy base. And when you weaken the secrecy base, things are in the light.
Yes.
And so that means the frequency is changing, from the darkness and the secrets and the power to the light. And we are also then connecting with those parts that have been in darkness all this time and working for the cult. And then when we access them, we can actually tell them they've been tricked, they've been lied to, and they're serving a loser. And nobody likes to be lied to. Nobody wants to be lied to. So they get pretty angry. And then you say, okay, but now you've got a choice. You know, you don't have to stay stuck and serving and going to rituals. You don't have to go to rituals. You have a choice.
When you say they get summoned to go to rituals, is this on a physical level that they actually can project themselves and take themselves there? Or is it more on a spiritual level where they would maybe be projectiled out of their bodies type thing, and maybe take over another body?
That's possible. It all depends on the calling and the ranking. It all depends on, you know, what is their iniquity force, and do they have access to clones? Because they make a clone within 24 hours. And so as a therapist, you need to be very careful, because they clone us. They just need our DNA. You know, they just need DNA, and then they clone you within 24 hours as a clone of you. And then what happens is this clone pitches up, or a Nephilim that is a lookalike pitches up at the ritual, and now you're the therapist, and now you're at the ritual. And so they're very shocked. And then they stop therapy. And then when you ask them what's going on, they say, but you're also cult active, you're at the rituals. And then it's all this game they play of deception. And so you have to be, you know, very careful to every day pray and destroy whatever clones they're making of you.
Yeah.
Huh? Destroy.
Because there are so many flying around at the moment, aren't there?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's very common now, you know. So, I mean, technology, sorcery technology has just exploded. So,
and most of us are still blissfully unaware of it, right?
Yeah. So depending on your ranking, you could be summoned that a part of you, you know, your spirit goes. So you go, and you go in the spirit, and you still attend whatever you have to attend. Others are there physically in their bodies, and they come back with bruises on their bodies, and they don't know where they got the bruises from.
So they don't have memory of being to these places in the middle of the night or doing certain things. It's kind of like a complete switch in persona, and then it's like that part of you goes walkabout when the rest of you is unaware of that. But
you see, when they do the summoning, they've programmed them very well. It won't just be one part. It's a relay. It's like a relay. There's one that wakes up. So there would be some sort of a sound. So they could give some beep on the phone. There could be something that triggers that part. They wake up, and then there's another part that starts dressing and knows what to wear. And then there's another part that opens a door. And there's another part that goes and stands outside and gets picked up. And then when they get to the ritual, then the part that has to do the ritual comes forward. And when they're done, and the part has got to come back home, they will stun them with stun guns, some sort of a shock, and blank slate them, so that they won't know a thing. They can't remember a thing. And so you are not dealing just with one part that goes. You are dealing with a whole relay and a relay back until you get into bed. So they're pretty clever. They're pretty clever. They know how to hide things.
This is insane.
Yeah.
How would one know what would be signs for someone who is programmed and controlled like that, that they can notice whether they are being programmed or not, and being sent out to some other event which you are blissfully unaware of?
Yeah, they will wake up tired. They'll have bruises over their bodies, you know. They can have very sore limbs, depending whether they broke their bones and they do magical healing. You know, things like that. They're going to see clothes in their cupboard that they don't know where it's coming from. It's you know, it's just the part that lives life, the presenter who's living everyday life doesn't have a clue, and they're not supposed to know. And they only create the presenter at age 3. So up until age 3, they've already put in all the parts they want, because they've already done a lot of splitting from the womb. And then at age 3, they will create a presenter, but there's not just one presenter either. There are 7 presenters. And normally one is the one you can work with, but the others are still cult active. And so your presenter part is at a different place in the brain as well. It's in the survival brain. So where the other programming is at the back of the brain, you've got the presenter parts get placed into the survival brain, which means it is the strongest of the whole system. So, you know, all of this stuff has come forward since we started to learn about the brain and know how the brain works and how they would do scans, brain scans. And I'm going to be showing you a couple of that in our presentation today. So that, you know, now that we've got this knowledge, we're able to actually, you know, we can now understand a lot more. And so if you're working with survival brain is what keeps your blood pressure going. It keeps your breathing going. It keeps you alive. Without survival brain, you'll be dead. And so survival brain is very, very strong, because that's your deepest part of your humanity. And so they put the presenter parts, 7 presenter parts that they put in there. And they are the strongest of the system. And the old, you know, when we used to do the therapy, we would think there's just one presenter. That's all. But we never realized there's actually 7. And so we would get trapped and tricked, and, you know.
But why 7 in particular?
I can't tell you. We've tested it over and over and over, and every time we get 7.
Okay.
So, 7 is a number of completion. It's a cycle. Yeah. So it could be a copycat of the biblical number 7. You know, that we know God says he created the world in 7 days and 7 years, and, you know, all the cycles of 7. It can be that's a part of a copy. You know, they copy everything because they can't create. They're not creators.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Wow, incredible. But let's get on with what you were going to present us with bonding as well, which I think is very, very interesting to talk about that.
Yeah.
A lot of it would be trauma bonding, I would imagine.
All right. So I can now do share screen.
Okay, hang on. Sorry, I think I need to just give it to you.
There we go. Thank you. All right. So let's play. So, Chantel, as just those people that want to download, all of this stuff is available on our website, and it's for free downloads. And so anybody is welcome to climb on and take what they would like to look at. So I'm just calling this DRD SRA training and foundations. So I want to talk about bonding, and what I'm doing today is, again, just laying foundations. So and so this applies to not only SRA DRD people, also normal, normal trauma, normal inner healing or pain in your life. So this could also apply because it's principles. So I just feel that we need to, put in the principles. Now, what is very important about bonding is God has created us to bond. We've been created to bond with a mommy, which is the deepest bond that you have with a human being. And it's the first bond because it's in the womb already through the umbilical cord. But of course, with the survivors, the younger generation, they get put into artificial wombs and they get put into a pod. And then they get basically controlled very, very closely by scientists that know exactly what to put in at what stage of development. So they're very clever. But the whole thing about bonding is God created us to bond with our mothers. But what they want to do is they want to break the bonding with SRA-DID. And even in our lives where we didn't have good relationships with our mom and we didn't bond with our mothers, we would, as babies, be screaming, and it is colic, they call it colic, but it's lack of bonding. We just didn't bond and we don't feel safe. And so what is interesting about this is we went and looked at what they call Paleo-Hebrew, and to look for the word mother. And the Paleo-Hebrew is pictures. So it's like hieroglyphics of Egyptian writing, but this is Hebrew. And so we see the word for mother. I do a whole teaching where I speak on the mother bonding and how we are to bond with our mothers. So I'm not going to go into that detail. It is available. It's part of the Journey to Freedom series, and it's book 3, where I specifically, book 2, I focus on the bond with a father, and book 3 is the focus on the bond with a mother. And I speak about, what is the role of mom in your life? And where there's no mom, we're going to have problems. So the word where is mother. So the Paleo drawings that you see there is the word in Paleo Hebrew for mother. And so where is mother? If we add this to the word mother, in other words, where is mother? Mother is now, she's drugged, or she's just not emotionally available. She's too busy with her own stuff. And so if we say, where is mother? We are going to get this word paleo, which then, Hebrew, you read from right to left. And so it's that ox, which is the head mum. And then where is mother? When we put this together in Paleo Hebrew, we get the word fear. So where there's no mommy in our lives, whether you DID, SRA, or just a person growing up in this broken world with broken parents, and now your mom is broken. Your mom has had lots of issues. She can't give her heart to you. She can't soothe you. She can't bond with you because her own heart is stone. She's turned her heart into stone. We get the word fear. And so the word picture says, where there is no mothering, there is fear. And I think this says it all. So the cult and Satan, your mama's enemy, he works on fear. That's what he works on. And totally. So he loves this. This is foundational. So for every DID SRA, they make sure there's no bonding with the mother. So they would then put the baby into implant the child into a mother's womb that's not even the mother. That's what they used to do in the olden days. But now they've got even the high-tech stuff. So they put them into a pod and they breed them. But the whole thing is there must not be bonding, because if there's bonding, there's love, there's acceptance, and there's safety. But then he can't work. Then he can't program the child. But the minute the mother steps out of the picture and she's not there, she's not safe either, there's fear. And that's how they work on the frequency of fear. And so they don't want a mother in the picture. So even for a normal person that just has a bad childhood, just parents that are messed up, you're going to have fear as well. And because of the fear, there's going to be stuff coming into your life because you don't have that bonding and safety. So as we previously discussed in the whole thing that I do with mothering and mother bonding is the first few years of bonding with mom and dad are foundational. And so even the first 18 months of your life, that is when the cycle of joy, I think we spoke about it the last time I mentioned it to you, but joy is what is our strength. And it's the first 18 months of your life where the synapses of the pathway of joy should be completed in your life. And if it's not there, you open for fear. You open for all negative frequencies and all the negative emotions. Every emotion is a frequency. And so you're going to be open for fear and insecurities and just no assurance, and all of that opens you up. And that's how the enemy can then send in all sorts of stuff into your life. And that will determine whether you will be an addict one day. Because if you didn't have the joy and the love and the acceptance within the first 3 years of your life, what happens is now you're open and you are now going to have addictive heart energy. And that addictive heart energy can be drugs, it can be sex, it can be food, anything that I'm addicted to, that I want, just to fill up this need, this hole inside of me. So we then create addictive heart energy. And I start attracting all sorts of stuff to try and fulfill this emptiness that's inside of me. And so the lack of bonding in our lives, or abusive trauma bonds, and that means that if you had a perpetrator for a mother, or just a mother messed up, and 1 minute she's like this and the next minute she's like that, that means you're going to form a trauma bond, because you've got a bond. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, you've got a bond. And God made us to bond. We were not created to be on our own and not bond. So if we don't bond, it means that I'm going to bond to something, and that makes a trauma bond. Even to my perpetrator, I'll go back for another hit. I'll go back for another rape. I'll go back, but I've got a bond. And that's why, we can't understand, why does a woman keep on going back to her abuser? Her husband keeps on beating her. We get her away. We get her settled in a new place. We put furniture, curtains, everything. We create a lovely place for her. And within a week or two, we hear she's back with her husband. And we're saying, what's wrong with this woman? Why does she keep on going back to abuse? It's because of the trauma bond. And so it's so important to understand bonding. This is foundational, whether you've just had a bad childhood or whether it's the extreme of SRA. We need to bond. But are you bonded in a healthy way, or are you bonded in a trauma bond? And you keep on going back for more and more punishment. And so if I have lack of bonding or trauma bonded, I'm going to have gaps in my development stages. And the cult have studied development stages to the T. They know exactly at what age the brain is now ready for the next download. And so it's so important that if you're working in this field, you must understand bonding, you must understand trauma bonding. And then you've got to understand this whole thing about, now I've got gaps. And the stages of development is the next part that I want to speak about, because this is foundational stuff. I must know, what have they done to that child at the different development stages? And so you are going to need to address these areas in terms of inner healing for your normal person. And of course, you're going to have to deal with trapped emotions, because that's now been trapped in the body. So you're going to find what happened in the past, Chantel, being in this counseling ministry for more than 40 years. I've seen a lot. I've been through a lot of courses. I've myself worked in this area for many, many years. I've trained myself, trained other counselors as well. And what we have found is that if we worked with a spirit, because the spirit gets wounded, and we deal with the spiritual aspect of the person. We've dealt with the soul, which is the mind, will, emotions. And we've dealt with inner healing when it comes to the soul. But what we did was we pushed the body away. We pushed the body to the back. And we kind of like neglected the role of the body. But what we've learned as more and more science has come forward and given us more and more understanding, we have learned that body, soul, and spirit are equal. They are equal.
Yes.
And in value. And so as the spirit man can give me information, the soul man can give me information, but so my body. So when we are not knowing what we're dealing with, when we don't know what has happened to this person, let's say there was trauma in the womb and they didn't have words, so that they can't verbalize the emotions. All they are saying, I have raw emotions. I am panicking. I have anxiety. I have, I can't sleep. And so they describing to you raw emotions, but they don't have a story to tell you what happened.
Yeah.
So what we then do is we work with Neshama, as we spoke about last time. We've learned about Neshama, and we can start to explore around Neshama. But what we also do is we say, body, show us what happened. And then the body goes into a body memory. And that is where you start seeing marks. If they were held down in rape, or fingers around the neck. So you start actually seeing the body manifesting body memories of the trauma. And, and the body cannot lie. That's the most important thing to remember. The body cannot lie. There's a guy called Bessel van der Kolk who has written a book called The Body Keeps Score. Brilliant book. And that shows you that when the body starts to speak, the body cannot lie, because the body has recorded everything that has happened to you. And it is stored. It's stored in the subconscious mind when it's pre-verbal. It's stored. The body has stored it in body memories. And that is why when there's a heart transplant or a kidney transplant, I think we've spoken about it, then you actually get the person getting the memories that goes with the organ.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Whatever they were doing when they were dying, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that you can look at to understand body memories. All right, so we see that trauma bonds are used in DID-SRA. And so this is really important, that you need to work through trauma bonds. Maybe, Chantel, as we go, we can talk, we can do a session on trauma bonds, which is foundation for the cult, for DID-SRA. And for any person that is trauma bonded, you don't have to be SRA, but you can be trauma bonded. And then you keep on going back to your abuse and your abuser, and you don't know why. And so that would help you to understand as well. Okay, so this is one of the books that I did, the teachings I did. It's called Journey to Freedom, Book 8. And I think it's like the cherry on the top of all of my teachings that I've done in all the years. And this is the development stages of the brain. I just love this because, I studied science. And so I love it when science starts catching up with what the Bible's trying to teach us all these years. And so I just love it to have the confirmation of how God created us as human beings. And so if you are interested in looking at the whole teaching that I did in Journey to Freedom, Book 8, I really want to recommend that. You need to understand the brain and the development stages and how the whole brain starts to function. And so I want to look at attachment styles, and that is to do with the bonding. It's how we attach. So when this tiny little baby and mommy's whole, okay, this is now a mommy that is sorted out all her nonsense from the past, and she's been healed, and And so she's, you know, her emotions are stable. She's mature enough to handle baby when baby cries all night and she's not sleeping. So she's not going to freak out, and, you know, she's going to get help. She's got maturity to understand how to work with baby and not hurt baby, and not, you know, project your own trauma onto baby. And so we call this synchronized. And that is where mommy and baby are synchronized. They are at the same frequency. So when mommy holds baby, or mommy's feeding baby on the breast or a bottle, that she looks into baby's eyes, and they are emotionally on the same page. They are synchronized. And when mommy looks at baby, there is a download that happens from mommy's eye into baby's eye. There is a download, but it's not words. It is emotional download. It's from the right side of the brain through the left eye into baby's left eye, downloaded onto baby's right side of the brain. There's emotional data that gets downloaded onto baby. Now, if you think of your mom and you think, in what state was mom when you were born? Was she stable? Or was she young, immature, didn't know what she was doing, full of fear, maybe drugging, maybe drinking, whatever, maybe being raped, maybe being a prostitute, but whatever she was, she could not, with her brokenness, synchronize with you as a baby. It's not possible. And so there would be a very negative download that's happening to baby from mommy. And it's data, but it's emotional data.
Yeah.
That gets downloaded without words. Now, this is very interesting. They were doing tests at a university. And this professor was busy developing this understanding about the baby and mommy. And he saw that there's a download happening, but he didn't know what to call it. They were still studying this. So he then asked mommies, he put it out there and he said, listen, I'm busy with research, and any parent, if, you know, mommy and child, if there's something strange going on with a child, please, could you come? I want to do tests and I want to see what I can learn. So this mommy arrives and she's got a little girl that walks with her legs like pigeon toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's walking and her legs, her knees are straight. So she's not bending her knees like a normal walk. So she's walking with very straight legs and, you know, very hips going and just rolling and just very uncomfortable. And she'd taken her to every doctor, every physio, every you know, medical specialist that she could find to try and sort out this child walking at 14 months like this. Strange. So the doctor looked at this and he studied her and heard her story, and he said, but tell me, what happened to you as a child? Can you tell me your story? And she said, okay, I've got quite an interesting story. When I was a child, I was born with club feet. And so they put, you know, those what do you call them? Not stilts. When you bandage up a child's leg and to try and get them, you know, to
yeah.
walk. So they, you know, they put like wooden things, you know, what they supported the child with. And so she would walk with her legs straight and she would walk like this. But there was a reason. She was born with club feet and they had medically worked on her. So they had to, you know, do operation and break the foot and set the foot, reset her feet, and then have her on these supports. So then he said, okay, now I've got the answer. He said, because you then downloaded an emotional memory to your child. So he said, I'm gonna test this and see if it works. So he picks up the little one, 14 months old, on his lap. He looks at the child in the eyes, because the eyes are the windows of your soul, of your spirit. And he speaks to the child's spirit. And a 14-month-old child doesn't have the mental understanding. He speaks to the spirit of the child and he says, please listen to me. You have no reason to walk like you are walking. That is mommy's memory. That's not your memory. Mommy had club feet as a child, and mommy had to have operations, but it's not your problem. You don't have that problem. You can walk normally. And the little one looked at him, and it's like, you don't know, has she heard what is going on? And she just hopped off his lap and she started walking normally. And that whole thing was over. It was finished. And so this is so amazing that you can just see that mommy downloads, and you need to know what gets downloaded to the child before words. Then we see this attachment style should, if they are synchronized, baby will be healthy. But we call it a light, like an attachment light. If the attachment light is always on, mommy, 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 the child becomes a needy child because mommy's not giving the attention. Mommy's not synchronized. Now the child is wanting attention all the time, 24/7, will cry and scream and kick and throw tantrums. And then you think, what a naughty child. No, mommy's messed up. Mommy isn't bonding. So baby has got the attachment light on all the time. I want attention, mommy. And it drives you crazy. I mean, you've seen kids like that, Chantal.
Absolutely.
So that explains a lot.
Amazing. Explains everything.
The next attachment style is where the lights are off. So this is the extreme, would be an autism, a child of autism. In other words, in their own little world, not connecting at all. Not connecting. That's your third attachment style. So that's where mommy ignores the child and baby ignores mommy. It's off. There's no connection. And the last one is disorganized or chaotic. Now, this is the one that the cult loves. So they love to work on this. So let's just see what this is. I'm just going to look at the fourth one. And this style is scared of unpredictability and scary reactions of turning the attachment light on. So they don't know, do I turn it on? Is mom going to hug me? Or is she going to throw me? What is mom going to do with me? And this is disorganized and chaotic. So the 1 minute mommy's, oh, I love you. And the next minute, just get away from me. I'm sorry you were born. So you've got, you see what they're doing? They're creating polar opposites. They're creating, this is DID. This is the beginning of DID. And so you can have a child, a mommy that is disorganized and got chaotic ways of attaching. And the baby is now set up for DID. Yeah. So we see baby begins to register the approach of mom as scary. So mommy comes down the passage. Baby wakes up from a sleep, a nap. Mommy and baby goes into fear because I don't know. Well, what mommy is she going to be okay, or is she going to be scary? And since he cannot know or guess, baby becomes disorganized as well. So this is set up for DID-SRA, and they do it as small as possible. So that's why they need the babies, because of the development stage. They know that we need healthy bonds and a healthy mommy to bond and to be synchronized together, to sing a symphony together. So when baby rests, mommy leaves baby to rest. When baby's awake, mommy is awake and playing with baby. But this disorganized is horrific. It is so scary. And then what we then also see is mommy has many issues. She's got anger issues. She's fearful. She's depressed. And so these are mommy's issues that she then projects and downloads onto baby, and baby becomes chaotic. And so due to her own pain and wounds, mommy herself is up and down, chaotic, disorganized, and does the same to the child. Absolutely. And so the baby tries to attach, but attaching is so unpredictable. And so what do? You just take your heartstrings, because God gave us heartstrings to attach. Now I take my heartstrings and I just pull them in and I knot them, and I don't bond with anyone. And I become an unhealthy adult. I can't give my heart. I can't bond.
And that's when narcissism will set in. That's the
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And so we can illustrate what psychology terms the primal split. Now, I'm just running through this. We did it last week. Baby's happy and joyful, but then trauma, mommy comes in and she's now in another state. And so mommy is angry. Baby gets a big shock, and mommy is scary too. And then mommy is mean. And so I've got to now try and make sense. And basically, baby gets put into a cage, emotional cage of negative frequencies.
Yeah.
That's what happens with child emotionally. And so even if you grow up and that's not been healed, and that development stage has never been revisited and healed, what happens is you grow up and you can't even love your husband, your wife, your children, the loved ones. You can't give yourself because you don't trust. You just don't trust. Yeah. And so, again, what I'm just running through this, we did this last week where we spoke about there's a good mommy and a bad mommy, and then baby comes and creates the good baby and the bad baby. And so that's what we call the primal split, and that's what they love to work on. So it's chaotic bonding. Okay, so now we see attachment is so unpredictable. And in trying to make sense of mommy's ups and downs, dividedness is introduced into the mind of the baby. So this is for normal people. You can be DID or extreme, which is what SRA want, but they've got to put these foundations in place. And so it could be a complete split, DID, SRA, depending on the degree of severity or for how long this was repeated. And then why is this and other bonding issues important to address? Why am I doing this with you, Chantel? And the reason is unhealthy bonding issues from my childhood mean I can't properly relate to God as my father. I don't trust him. And I don't know if he's going to really be there for me. So I have father issues. And then I can't fully bond with my spouse. And I can't relate or bond to others in the community. Even my children don't know me. They just see an angry me. They don't know me. They don't know the real me, because I'm a caged. The real me is caged. And so it's so sad. So the bonding relationships are the basis to my pain, hurt, and faulty perceptions. And if denied or left undealt with, I will not mature and walk in the fullness the Father has for me. And so my marriage is going to be a mess. You know, as I shared with you, I think I was about emotionally 5 years old and Rolly about 7 when we got married, because, I mean, here we are full-blown adults, but emotionally we're like kids. And so I throw my tantrums and I throw my toys out the cart, and you know, if he doesn't say he loves me every day, you know, all nonsense like that. So I'm an adult, but I'm acting like a child, and I mess up my marriage. I mess up my relationships, and it's all because of what happened in my childhood. And so I will remain arrested in my development. I'm going to be stuck as a 5-year-old, stuck as a 3-year-old, whatever the trauma is, when it happened in my life, I'm going to be stuck in cycles of pain and addictive behaviors. And even generationally, these things can be downloaded onto my life as well through my mother, that from her right side, emotional side of her brain, through her left eye into my left eye and onto my right brain. And that gives me the foundation of my emotions. Yeah. So my first emotions are my mom's download. So I have to find out, hey, this that I'm feeling now, this fear, this panic, this insecurity, is it mine or is it my mother's? And so I've got to release it, even if it's generationally, it's still a trapped emotion that has to be released. It's a negative frequency. Okay, and so I'm going to be susceptible to abuse as well. So I'm going to walk into a relationship where my husband abuses me. You know, I'm going to be abused at work. My boss is going to abuse me. I'm going to be deceived.
Cycles repeating themselves.
That's it. That's it. Because I'm not a whole. I have all these negative things, negative frequencies. And so I draw these negative people to me, and I'm going to end up in trouble. All right. And now I want us to look at the brain. And this is very interesting, Chantel. Just want to check our time. Okay, we still got a bit of time. Now, if you look at brain chemistry, as I said to you, you know, I studied science. So this stuff to me is fascinating. I just love it. And there are three things that we need for brain development. And that is, these chemicals is serotonin and dopamine and noradrenaline. And so these three chemicals are there, but they will start to really kick in and mature as the brain matures. They need to mature with my brain. But now what happens is, in trauma, I'm going to explain to you that I get stuck, because now I've got serotonin. Serotonin is the calming, the soothing. I can soothe myself. I can take a soft toy and I can soothe myself, and I don't need my mother to rock me to sleep every time. Only, of course, if I'm upset or whatever, I need that. But I can soothe myself. I can get into bed, be put into bed, get my toy, my soft blankie, whatever it is. That's the serotonin that helps me to soothe and calm myself. The next one is dopamine, and that is the joy. That is the happy, the good space. And then the noradrenaline is when I've been in a negative space. I need, and my adrenaline is pumping because it's now fight or flight. I need the noradrenaline to calm me. So these are the three basic chemicals that we need as we grow up. Now, these chemicals are necessary for logic, for discernment, and for reasoning. But as a child, of course, you can't think logically. Your brain is still developing. So you've got those three chemicals, but they're underdeveloped. They're not fully developed, that where they should be helping me to reason, to think logically, and to for discernment. So if I'm being raped and those chemicals are still 5-year-old, I'm going to believe it's my fault because I can't reason. It's not my fault. It's the adult that's doing this to me. And so I take the blame. I'm dirty. I'm naughty. It's my fault. And so that's what happens with arrested development. And so these chemicals are underdeveloped in a child. And as I have healthy bonding, healthy relationships, they develop with me, that by the time I'm 12, the prefrontal cortex is now kicking in and working. Those chemicals are fully developed. I can start to reason. I can start to discern, and I can start to think logically because now I've matured. But now what happens to so many of us is we get stuck. And so if I experience any trauma during the first 12 years of my life, those are critical years. Now, the cult knows this. They have studied the human being better than what we can ever think. And they have seen that if a child suffers trauma in the first 12 years of your life, then you get arrested in development, and they can start messing even with, they can take those parts and then program you. Because up until the age of 7, or they can still, you split and they can program you. But afterwards, now you're starting to mature. And if you've got healthy bonds, they've lost you. So if you have a family that loves you, accepts you, and bonds with you, the cult has got less of a chance to get hold of you. They can't, because that bond is too strong. And so that is the key to healing. But now a child is suffering trauma. And so they are literally arrested in development at those ages, because those chemicals are not developed. And the child is then stuck. So the 5 traumas that is the most serious, that is going to get me stuck, is rejection. So I want you to know that these 5 traumas are what the cult focuses on specifically. We were never made to be rejected. So rejection is horrific. And we were made for love and for acceptance. The next point is incest. And that is where I have now, it's somebody in my family that has come to the deepest part of my identity. Your sexuality is the deepest part of your identity. And if there is incest, and we know what the Bible tells us about incest, that you are cursed for 10 generations if there's been incest. And so the cult works on this. The cult makes sure that it's family members, specifically the father, that does the first rape. And so you have the father that is going to cause the incest, and the child will be arrested at whatever they're doing with the child, whether it's sodomy, which is anal rape, or vaginal rape. But the child will be arrested. Then we have the next is molestation. Now, this is where it can be the next door neighbor. It can be, it's now not blood. It's now not family. It can be, the little boy down the road. It can be, it's somebody from outside, but it's still molestation. It can be spying on you, peeping Tom, watching you, whatever, but it's still a form of molestation. And so, this is the third one. And you can just see the first one, rejection, and then we start with sexual. So that's going to arrest you in development. The next one is emotional abuse. And that's all negative frequencies. And so they love to break down a child. And even a parent who is broken and that was raised with shame will discipline their children with shame, because that's all they know. And so they release negative frequencies of shame. And do you know, Chantel, that shame is the lowest frequency of the negative frequencies? That's shame. And Absolutely. So it's horrific. Shame is horrific. And it's the first thing that happened in the garden when Adam and Eve sinned. They were naked and ashamed. So shame entered in the garden, came in there. And so what the cult specializes in is shaming. So they would make them sit in their own poop, in their own urine, all of that stuff, and just say to them, disgusting, look what you look like. You disgust me. And shame, because that is what breaks down your humanity, your worth, your value. Yeah. So they love this emotional abuse. And the last one is physical abuse. And that's being beaten, being hit. You've got marks on your body. But that's number 5. And they're in exactly according to from the worst to the least worst. But these 5, they are serious. And so if you've suffered this as a child, whether you just a human being growing up with broken parents, or you were in an orphanage, you were in some home, or you didn't have parents, and this stuff came into your life, you are going to be arrested in development, and it's going to affect you as an adult. You are going to act like a child, even although you're an adult. And so the wounds of these traumas cause changes in the brain. Now, this was fascinating to me, that you can actually see the changes in the brain when a child suffers trauma. So can you imagine what an SRA child's brain looks like?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to show you some pictures, some brain scans, and you can see what, what it looks like. There's a psychiatrist called Dr. Daniel Amen, and he developed it. So he was like a forerunner in his field. He was mocked by his peers. He was told he's crazy. Just give the guys drugs and they'll be fine. And he said no. So he took punishment, he took blows, he took rejection, he took, being shamed. He took all of that, standing by this because he knew that he got something that's truth. It's a specific type of brain scan. It's called PET, a PET brain scan. And his website is amenclinic.com. And his stuff is translated now into Dutch and German. And so amazing how he's become known in the world. Or brainplace.com. And now I want to show you the brain. And what he found out, what we believed in the old days before we knew this, was that once you've messed up your brain, you can never change your brain. It's messed up. And so, I would not touch weed, for example, as a teenager, because I heard weed kills your brain cells. And I need my brain cells to think, so I didn't want to damage anything, so I wouldn't touch that. And then, so now he comes along and he says, wait, the brain is pliable. It's like plasticine.
Yeah.
And you can actually form pathways around. Let's say you had a brain clot in the brain, a thrombosis or in the brain, a brain attack, which they call it. Like you have a heart attack, but now you have a brain attack. Your brain can actually form pathways around the damage and rewire the brain. You can rewire the brain. It is possible. Amazing. And that's where your OTs, occupational therapists, come in, and they are trained to help you with exercises to form new pathways and to reprogram the brain, change your brain.
That's amazing.
All right. So on the left, you can see there's an image of a brain that looks like it's got holes in it. And on the right, you've got quite a smooth brain. So the smooth brain is the healthy brain, but the one with the holes in it isn't holes. It's areas where there's no blood flow. So that's what the scan shows you. Where the holes are, there's no blood flow, so there's no function. So the brain's not working there. And so you need to get the brain going again with specific exercises. Now, this is interesting. On the left, we've got the healthy brain, the smooth brain. And on the right, you've got somebody who's been using meth and heroin 7 years. Can you see the amount of holes in the brain? Which means
that's
no blood flow. So these people, if they want to reverse what's happened, they can go and get a job. And all they can do basically is pick up the phone and say, hello, and take a very basic message and goodbye. There's not enough brain function. And so you start training them in little tasks, teaching them, brush your teeth, comb your hair, take a shower, all of these things that, drug addicts don't do. And so you start to retrain the brain and get the blood flowing back so that the brain can heal.
That's
and
amazing.
This is what Dr. Amen got right to show. We can change the brain. You can get your brain back. So this is, to me, this is fascinating. So
it's fascinating.
This follows on. So you've got your 7 years of meth. Still, look what it looks like. Now, this is where they've given her methadone and, certain medications. So Dr. Amen, being a doctor, gives meds as well. He prays with them. And only 6 weeks later, he does another brain scan. And look at the brain. He's changed.
Wow.
They're functioning again.
That's
And
amazing.
so this is awesome. So it gives people
Body's
hope.
designed to heal itself. That's just proving again your body's designed
That's
to heal
it.
itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. All right. And then we've got, this is interesting because, my dad was an alcoholic, and when he would drink, he would be violent. And there was stages, my childhood, that he would pull out a gun. Now, he had these big hunting guns, and like you'd have to load the bullet. And I mean, he would frighten us, would cause tremendous fear. My mom would just run, and, we were 5 children, and I was number 4. And I remember going into the room where my dad was sitting with a gun on his lap. And we lived on a coast, the south coast region of Natal, which is warm. The water is warm. The climate is warm, and so there's a lot of perspiring. So my dad would sit there just in his pants. He'd not have a shirt on. It's hot, and he'd be sitting with a gun. He's as blown out of his mind with alcohol as can be, and he's trying to load the bullet because he's going to shoot us now. And I remember the smell of his body. I remember the sweat and alcohol. And I remember the fear. My heart was just going crazy. My knees were shaking. And I remember going to him and begging him and saying, Daddy, please don't kill us. Please don't shoot us. Please don't shoot us. And I wondered what my brain looked like. Now, this is a picture of a child growing up in a home with violence. So on the left is the normal brain, quite smooth. On the right, the violent one. And I realized,
wow,
I've got some brain damage and I need some help. So I started praying. And I know that Roly has just been the most amazing healing balm in my life. His love, his support, his understanding, his stability. He's like a rock. His yes is his yes. He's he's just such an amazing guy. And through his love, he healed a lot of my damage that I got as a child. And so, it's possible. Doesn't matter what you've grown up with. So your SRA DIDs this is their life, so you can imagine how broken their brains are. And then a depressed person and a non-depressed person. Look at the non-depressed person, how much light they have. Good frequencies of light. Look at the depressed person. There's very little light. They don't even want to open the curtains in the morning. They don't want to get up. They don't want to get dressed. They don't have the inner strength or the ability. And you can't say to them, come on, man, get out of bed and pull yourself together and, you better pray more. You don't have enough faith. You can't work with them like that. That is being abusive. So you have to know, how do we get more light? I've got to deal with the darkness. I've got to deal with the depression, the trapped emotions that's with this person must be released. I've got to deal with the memories. So you can imagine so many SRAs sit with depression. They don't want to die. A lot of them are suicidal now during this season. So you need to, that's why I'm saying as a counselor, you need to be available and you need to get them to write a petition. I've got petitions for suicide that they make a covenant with God, that they will not harm the body. So that at least there's some document that's going to stop them. And then you ask some part of them to come forward and phone you if they want to harm the body. So you make an agreement with them. And it's very important to work with the survivor that is so broken and so hurt. But remember, there's also brain damage. There's physical brain damage that has taken place. And now we want to get to joy. Joy is our strength. That's what God says. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And we've got to build a joy base. And if you've come through this and your brain is messed up, there's no way for joy. And so the healing, I just want to give some hope so that there is a way of healing. There is a way to get positive frequencies, to start building on love and acceptance, and specifically joy. So Psalm 16:11 says, "You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy." And that's what we want, is the presence of the Lord. And at your right hand, there are pleasures forevermore. And so, to know that I can deal with whatever happened to me in the past. It's not too late. It's never too late with God. He's always wanting to heal. He's always wanting to release his joy to us. And so take scriptures of joy and start printing them out and putting them behind your toilet door. I say, don't sit there doing nothing. Get your mind working and start going through, whatever it is you're struggling with. Start speaking life. Start speaking, I am enough. I am enough. Why? Because he gives me everything I need. I am enough. That is such a positive frequency. And I had an appointment with Zandre, Dr. Zandre Buerta. And the first thing she teaches her people is the statement, I am enough. So Absolutely. It's brilliant. Yeah, she's such a star. I'll still share with you. All right. So my joyful identity, if I had a family life full of joy, my joy bucket, which is my emotional bucket, will be big. And I can, I have lots and lots of joy. And so we understood this when our little grandchildren came along. And so our eldest granddaughter, she is absolutely an example of somebody with a huge joy bucket. She'll come into a room, even when she was small, like a little 2-3-year-old coming to a party. She loves parties. She's a very social being. So she'll come into the room where the other children are playing and they're getting ready, the party, the kids are arriving, and she will arrive and she will say, hello, everybody, I'm here. She's got no problem with her self-confidence. She has a huge joy bucket, but her granny, yours truly, had a little joy bucket. So I never understood why I never played with my birthday gifts. I never opened them. I would get my present, I would peep and see what it is and close it. And for years it puzzled me. And I said, God, come on, why did I do that? When I left home, my mom, with all 5 children, she made boxes and each one got their stuff, in the box. And so when I got my box, it was full of my old birthday presents that I got when I was 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's my birthday presents, unopened, beautiful, not played with. And I asked God, why? And then he started to show me my joy bucket was so small that I was so afraid if I have the joy to get a present, I open it, but when I use it, it's gone. It's finished. So my joy bucket was too small to handle, and I could only handle a little bit at a time. Isn't that sad? You don't realize how it affects you in your life. And you do things as a child and you have these little habits and you just don't know why. But it's got to do with the joy. And so is your home base is a joy. And here we are. This is very interesting to see that the green line is growth. All right. So you're growing now up in years. The blue line is joy. And what you see here is that this is now climbing Joy Mountain. All right. And what you see is that as I grow in years, so my joy bucket should grow with me. And by the time I'm adult, my joy bucket should be big, because I need lots of joy to handle this messed up world. I need joy. I need to overflow with joy onto other people's lives. But now I want to show you another picture. And this is what is trauma. And so, first of all, if you just see that this whole climbing of joy, if your growth, physical growing of the body, and your joy bucket is growing together, you've got a dopamine party without saying a word. You've just got full of joy. Everything is just full of joy. But now I want you to see what is trauma. And that is, you are growing in years, but your joy bucket is blue and it's staying small. Can you see the difference between growing in age and your size of your joy bucket? That's trauma. People ask, what is trauma? Can you explain to me what is trauma? This is what it is. It's got to do with the joy bucket. And so as I grow and my joy bucket stays stuck, it doesn't grow further. I've got a little joy bucket. The difference between growing in years, adulthood, and the size of my joy bucket, the difference is trauma. And life is painful. So my joy bucket is just not there. I'm depressed. I'm negative. I'm moaning and groaning all the time. When people come around me, they just feel this heaviness. And so this is such a good description of what is trauma. Can you imagine how small? I don't even know if the SRAs have got a joy bucket. I think there's like nothing. What joy have they ever had in their lives? So even, depending on how you grew up and how messed up your parents were. So this is so interesting. And I want to wrap up. If there's no joy capacity, we will also be susceptible to addictive behaviors. So I'm going to try and pull stuff into this emptiness inside of me because I want joy. So I have addictive heart energy, and I'm going to draw all sorts of things into my heart to fill up that space. So depending on which stage of development we got stuck, that's why I said stages of development are so, so important. And then what do we see here? I start pulling into my empty joy bucket all sorts of things, behaviors. I can become a workaholic. I can be jumping. I've got to seek the next thrill after the next thrill, adrenaline rush, adrenaline junkie. Experiences like sex. I can jump from one bed to the next bed and think, okay, that's going to fulfill me. It's addictive. It's addictive. I've got an addictive heart energy and I'm pulling in anything. I can pull people into that place where people feel smothered because you are absorbing everything of that person and they just going like, hey, wait. You can't, and that's where people don't want to be near you because you are sucking out the very life essence out of them. And then also substances like alcohol or whatever your taste of addiction is, your substance. So you can just see that's what happens when our joy buckets are so small. We try and fill and get joy in other ways. All right. And so the addictive heart energy, addictions help us to medicate, to artificially regulate positive and negative emotions as well as pain. And so I try anything just to feel better. And attachments to these different experiences and behaviors and people and substances. I mean, this girl's eating ice cream. I mean, she can finish the bucket, the tub of ice cream. And so this is going to take the place of secure relationships to God and significant others. And so the wounds of the enemy become our prison bars. And we then reinforce these bars by holding on to pain and unforgiveness. And so we are in bondage. And that's my story for today. So I trust that that has blessed you.
Thank you so much. As always, extremely interesting. Very, very interesting. So true. And again, I think it's, again, for all of us, I don't think we are aware how many people that have been damaged walk amongst us. So just to be aware, I think
absolutely.
that is such important information for each and every one of us to understand. Amanda, thank you so, so much for your beautiful energy and your expertise. And we will see you back in a couple of weeks' time again. No doubt about
sure.
that. Yeah. And then we talk about the SRA as well. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything just in closing. Shame, I know that your time is precious. Anything in closing you'd just like to say to us?
I think, Chantal, if we can start to see people differently, it's exactly what you said. People are around us and we tend to judge them very quickly. We tend to pick up stones and throw stones.
Yeah.
But to realize, where do they come from? What sort of a childhood did they have? How big is their joy bucket? What damage do they have to their brain physically? And
exactly.
If you just think how people are hurt, and that we would have more mercy and compassion and understanding for each other, and be a healing balm, and not someone that just judges and wants to condemn. That's really my heart and my message. And to realize that working with the broken is working with those that are the closest to God's heart.
Exactly.
And that we need to tread softly. And sometimes, of course, we've got to be firm, and there's discipline and all of that stuff. But love is the most important healing balm.
Absolutely. That intention.
Yeah. And also just to remind everyone that this is a difficult time. There's a lot of dark days coming up now. And so the people that are really hurting are going to feel suicidal. And I want to encourage you, please download the petition against suicide, because it's connected with high days, it's connected with birthdays, it's connected. So they do become suicidal now, because remember, their brain has been very badly damaged, and it's all depression, it's all dark. And now they're being pulled into rituals, and there's sacrifices taking place. So there's blood, there's all these sex and all these dark things happening. And so, we really need to step up. And if there are intercessors, people that pray, that would be able to pray over this time, even if you're not counseling these broken people, but you can be a backup, that would also help. So, we need more people in this field. Yeah, for sure.
Just the understanding, Absolutely. That goes along with it, I think, is super important.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. That's really, again, invaluable information for us to know. Really, really appreciate that. And to our viewers out there, I think this is it just gives us so much insight into the world, really, right now. So just to be cool and kind and compassionate, we never know what someone else's story is.
That's right.
So guys and girls, I thank you so much for watching another wonderful, extremely interesting episode with Amanda Bass. Look forward to seeing you back in a couple of weeks. And if you guys haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. Find us on Facebook, BitChute, Twitter, Telegram, and Odyssey. Our new channel as well, Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. You can find us on there. Got lots of things going on at the moment. So God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you.